We are literally surrounded by some wildly powerful algorithms today. I mean, they're seamlessly generating text, writing complex code, and painting these stunning digital masterpieces in a matter of seconds. And honestly, it feels like magic. Because of this, there's this pervasive, almost existential dread floating around right now, isn't there? This deep fear that artificial intelligence is somehow waking up, that it possesses independent creative agency, and that it's here to just autonomously replace human authorship. But today, we're going to look right past that slick interface to uncover the cold, mechanical reality that is actually running the show.
So this brings us to the central question we really have to ask ourselves. Is artificial intelligence actually a conscious creator, or is it just a highly sophisticated digital scripter? Like, is there genuinely some ghost in the machine conjuring up masterpieces out of thin air? Or are we just projecting our own humanity onto an incredibly fast calculator? As you'll see, we are about to explore a massive paradigm shift in how we interact with machines and what it actually means to be an author in the modern digital age.
Okay, Section 1, the AI creator myth. Let's dive right into this. We constantly hear this grandiose narrative that AI systems have suddenly woken up, right? But to truly understand our role alongside these systems, we need to systematically strip away the marketing magic and absolutely shatter this whole neo-god illusion. We have to look at the stark, mathematical reality of how these systems function. To ground this, we can look to the philosopher Hannah Arendt. She pointed out that true creation requires something called praxis. Now, in everyday terms, praxis is an active, engaged doing that is completely and inextricably tied to lived human experience. True creation requires biological friction, It requires a societal context. An AI doesn't feel joy, it doesn't experience grief or heartbreak, it has literally never stubbed its toe. It has absolutely zero inner self, and it faces absolutely no physical struggle when staring down a blank page. And without that messy maze of human life, there is no genuine internal drive, which means cold silicon simply cannot be a true creator.
Moving on to Section 2, Meet the Digital Scripter.
So, if the machine isn't a conscious creator, what exactly is it? Like, what is physically happening when you type a prompt into an AI and get a stunning output in return? Well, cultural theorist Roland Barthes gives us the absolute perfect term for this, dating all the way back to a concept from 1967, the scripter. A scripter doesn't originate ideas out of thin air. Instead, modern generative AI is basically just an incredibly sophisticated mechanical vessel. Think of it like a giant mental kaleidoscope or a von Neumann Babelfish. It blindly ingests massive databases, mimics patterns, and recombines pre-existing cultural data based strictly on statistical probabilities. It executes technically with blazing speed, for sure, but it does it without a soul. It's completely devoid of actual comprehension.
And this brings us to a massive structural divide known as the modality gap. On one side, we have human cognition, what researchers sometimes call OS alpha. It's warm, it's highly associative, beautifully messy, and deeply intuitive. On the other side, we have the machine. The physical microchip is cold, rigid, and driven purely by strict electrical voltages. It is utterly and completely blind to human meaning. Trying to mix the two? It's literally like trying to force a wild-flowing river through a perfectly square, unyielding metal pipe.
Which leads us to Section 3, Crossing the Semiotic Bridge.
So the absolutely crucial point is this. How do we safely connect these two totally alien worlds? If there's such a massive divide between our fluid meaning and strict hardware voltages, how do we command that cold hardware without completely losing our intent in translation? Well, we need a universal, deterministic interface. And we do this by crossing what's known as the semiotic bridge. It happens in 3 strict steps. Step 1, your messy, associative, human intent initiates in your mind. Step 2, you formalize that abstract thought into structured text. Think JSON, Python, or a highly precise written prompt. This is what we call the divine script. And step 3, that exact, lossless text compiles perfectly into exact physical hardware execution in the processor. This bridge is literally the only safe way that the continuous, swirling flow of human imagination trickles all the way down and compiles into strict, physical action in the real world.
Section 4, the agentic typewriter.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it completely reframes our relationship with these advanced systems. We often think of AI as a collaborator, right? But when we look at the pure mechanics, it functions merely as a rigid tool for the human author. It is an agentic typewriter.
In fact, let's get a bit meta for a second. The very AI used to help generate this explainer is functioning exactly as this agentic typewriter, as a digital scripter, not a conscious creator. I, the human pilot, crossed the semiotic bridge to feed it strict text. That proves the human remains the true orchestrator, while the machine simply provides the computational sweat to render these words and visuals. By crossing the semiotic bridge with highly structured language, we are, quite literally, tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text. Explicit, unabstracted text is the ultimate leverage you have over this machine. The AI is simply a mechanical brush executing strict commands based on the text you feed it, but make no mistake, you are the one holding the pen.
But taking the wheel requires serious effort because AI models inherently guess. They rely on probabilistic algorithms that can easily hallucinate and distort your intent. To combat this, you've got to engage in what researchers call protortion. Protortion is the proactive, painstaking manual steering required by a human pilot to map their vision perfectly to reality. You have to actively reject the AI's probabilistic guesswork and what the sources call its automated miasma. It is the pure mental sweat equity of editing, pruning, and forcefully bending that rigid machine back toward your specific intent.
All right, Section 5, the record of sweat. This brings us to a really fascinating evolution in how we actually prove our authorship. Think about it. In a digital landscape completely flooded with infinite machine-generated media, synthetic noise, and automated guesswork, how do we cryptographically prove that our real human effort actually exists? Well, we establish it through the record of sweat. This is a permanent, verifiable cryptographic history. It basically acts as the modern mathematical revival of the historic sweat of the brow legal doctrine. It proves, mathematically, that actual human metabolic energy, physical horsepower, and focused beating human intent were spent to execute a digital mission. Because here's the thing. You simply cannot sever the intent of a digital command from the literal physical calories burned to execute it. This record serves as the ultimate, undeniable validation of human stewardship. And to really grasp the sheer, mind-blowing scale of this modern digital orchestration, consider this stark metric from a recent real-world milestone, 55.5 million. That is 55.5 million tokens of actual metabolic flux recently measured in a sovereign digital swarm. That's massive. It stands as a literal digital monument to human effort. It proves mathematically, all the way out at the very edges of the network, that a sovereign human pilot was undeniably at the wheel, sweating out the protortion required to steer the machine safely.
And finally, Section 6, Rise of the Orchestrator. And this brilliantly illustrates the complete phase shift of our modern role. Human creators are absolutely not dying out. Instead, we're evolving. We are shifting from being manual laborers who painstakingly originate every single pixel or line of code by hand into sovereign master architects. The core thesis of this entire evolution is this. The human pilot applies the intent, but the agent cell executes the sweat. In this new era, the machine acts as the digital scripter. It handles the raw, tedious computation and the mechanical rendering. But the overarching rhetorical strategy, the moral mandate, and the actual emotional resonance born of lived experience, that remains 100% human. The machine is the brush, for sure, but you remain the undeniable painter. So as these incredibly powerful agentic tools integrate into absolutely every aspect of our lives, you're faced with a massive choice. Will you passively rent space in the cloud, acting as a mere crumple zone for an algorithm and blindly accepting its automated distortion, or will you actively wield the divine script across the semiotic bridge, apply the sweat of your brow, and step up as the sovereign pilot of your own digital legacy? The choice and the true magic of authorship is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the systems you use, and I'll catch you next time.